A warm welcome to another edition of our live YouTube and Twitter preview show of the Magpie Circle. Guests, quality not quantity tonight, joined by Leigh Curtis from the Nottingham Post. Leigh, delighted to have you on board. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, good to see you too. Are you keeping well?
Yes, we're all good. All the better for being able to debate, can Notts County make it 3 wins out of 3? And it's not happened too many times this season. So we'll be debating that with the trip to Hartlepool on Saturday. We'll also be talking National League. Brian Barwick, the chairman, has officially confirmed he will be stepping down. Is that going to make a difference to this proposed vote of no confidence that clubs are currently being asked to consider in the National League board? Kel Roberts, will he or won't he be available for Saturday for the trip to the northeast? We'll talk Jimmy Knowles, 19-year-old, hat-trick. Any level, any time to get a hat-trick in professional football is no mean achievement, and to do it in 19 minutes is certainly a considerable achievement. Housekeeping and good maintenance, the red button, subscribe please, absolutely free if you've not already done so. Our main guest for the player feature this week is Saul Deeney. Many of you remember him from being in goal for Notts for actually quite a few seasons, and Burchnall Albion's cup runs. Played Manchester United with Saul in goal, I believe. And Saul will be telling us a great story about, I don't know what you got up to on your 21st birthday, Leigh. Saul was in goal.
I don't think I should tell that story, really.
well, Saul's got a better one.
It lasted about 3 days, but whatever one.
Saul's got a better one because on his 21st birthday, he was in goal for Notts County at Meadow Lane, and he got all the relatives, and he's got a lot of them that came over from Ireland, and they're all ready to have a party afterwards, and it's all going swimmingly till about 10 minutes from the end, when Saul, shall we politely say, got involved in an altercation with an opponent and was given a straight red. So how to spoil your birthday by seeing red? So that and more. We've already got a few people on board. K. Oliver Ramsden, hey up, good to see you, K. In your head changed man. Where do people get these monikers from, Leigh? Is Jeff Stelling going to be on? Look, there's no pleasing some people, is there? We get Martin Tyler, voice of Sky Sports, does an hour-long show, and everyone's straight in. You know
it's the yellow ticker bars, mate. It's the yellow ticker bars. Telling you, that's what's doing it.
We are in discussions with Jeff. Well, we're trying to be in discussions because I do know him a little bit, but I've not actually been able to make contact yet. And of course, we Ridley Scott, you know, Alien, all that.
One of my favourite directors. Yeah.
Do you know he's a Hartlepool fan?
Well, he's gone down.
He's from there. Yeah, Hartlepool fan. So we won't bother with Z-listers like Jeff Stelling. We'll just go straight for Ridley Scott. Okay, we'll talk to him about Russell Crowe, Gladiator, and sling a few comments in about
Blade Runner. By the way, Blade Runner is his best film.
Yeah. Good one. Right. Anyway, A-listers of our own. Jimmy Knowles. What did you reckon? 3 goals, 19 years old. Or is he 20 now? You got him in 19 minutes anyway. Cool finishers, a lot of them, weren't they?
Yeah, very composed, very ruthless. I thought the second half, Woking did start to tire a little bit, but I thought Knowles' movement allied with Lewis Knight's pace made a huge difference to the attack, because I felt in the first half everything was tried to be a little bit too precise, too short. I had Eli Sam dropping back into midfield on occasions, but I just felt in the second half Notts started to go the other way, and there was a perfect snapshot, I think, of what Lewis brings in the fact that there was a moment where I think he'd just come on and Jake Reeves got the ball and Lewis Knight just ran towards goal and he played the through ball, and I think he ended up firing wide of the far post. But it was that moment that and that's when I talk about being live up front, being the movement, stretching defences, run the other way. And, in fairness to Jimmy and Lewis, they both did that. It caused Woking no end of problems. And, Jimmy, the level of finishing and the level of high quality that he produced for all 3 goals was absolutely top draw. When you're going through, sometimes the worst thing on a striker's mind when you go clean through, as they all say, is that sometimes you have too much time. Sometimes you just want the instinctive ones. But he kept his composure superbly, and all 3 terrific finishes.
Evening to David Henton as well. Come on, you pies. Ian Baggett, I think you can probably tidy this one up fairly quickly. Asks a question, Leigh. Has Matty Wolf officially returned to Barnsley?
Not sure whether it's official, but it is my understanding he has gone back, yes.
Yes. And of course, Kenton Richardson has gone back, and Deeney Effiong has also gone back, correct?
Yes, they've both gone back as well, yeah.
Yeah. So there's certainly been a bit of cleaning out and clearing of the squad, with Regan Griffiths coming in from Crewe.
Yeah, I think, the loan signings, Kenton was brought in as a short-term measure anyway, wasn't he? Because Tyler Golden got injured, and Golden was the replacement for Richard Brindley, and then obviously Kenton picked up an injury, and I always thought that was only going to be a short-term stopgap anyway until Richard got fit, and by all accounts he's making quite good progress. I don't think it'll be long before he's actually back and ready. But in terms of Deeney Effiong, I was disappointed. Got to be honest, disappointed. I watched him last season for Dover. I thought he was absolutely exceptional when he played against Notts in the game last season. Real strong as an ox. Real handful to deal with. But he never really showed any kind, even in the moments that he was given, he never kind of showed that sort of quality he demonstrated for Dover last season. He scored 16 odd goals last year. It never quite worked out for him. And do you know what? Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you bring players in, they've had good records elsewhere, and you bring them in, you expect the same kind of level of quality, and sometimes it just doesn't work. The environment might not be quite right, the style of play not be quite right, and sometimes you just have to hold your hands up and say you got that one wrong. But a little bit disappointed with that one. Kenton's first game was against Halifax, wasn't it? And I think he had quite a tough night that night. So, and then obviously pulled. I think he's done his hamstring, hasn't he? So, I didn't think there was going to be any point of extending that loan anyway. Not with the fact that Enzio is starting to play right wing back now, and obviously Golden's fit again. You've got Kelly Evans, and also you've got Richard Brindley as well who can play there. So it's not as if there's a shortage of right backs.
Let's just go back to Jimmy Knowles, and I think every Notts County supporter, almost 100%, were genuinely enthused, excited about seeing a front line in the second half at Woking that had Knowles obviously scoring the goals, but with Knight as well. There was a mobility, there was an athleticism, there was a pace, there was a capability to turn opposition defences and run beyond, which has not always been prevalent in the way the team has been set up this season.
Yeah, I think I've said on this show many times before, I always felt that Notts' front line, be it whether it be Sam or, I don't really count Kyle as one of those centre forwards who looks to go in behind all the time. He's sort of the link-up man, isn't he? You either playing to his feet or he tries and wins the flick-ons if they want to go a bit more direct. But I always felt that Notts needed a striker who had that capability of just having that lick of pace that just makes defenders, especially at this level, if you just turn it into an area, defenders ain't going back towards their own goal. And I think what it proved, I think it was for the third goal, wasn't it? There was a ball from Jordan Barnett, and his pace took him. Keeper panic, couldn't get there, and just about got there, the goalkeeper, but couldn't get a decent enough clearance. And there you go. Jimmy Knowles picks it up. Great finish, by the way. Great composure, still had a lot of work to do. But it's those kinds of moments. And I think what that pace gives you is actually you can turn what looks to be a bad ball into a good ball. If you turn it into an area, someone's chasing it. And even if the defender sticks it, I said before, even if you put a defender under pressure and they stick it out for a throw-in, you've got yourself 60 yards at the pitch. And I think sometimes, Notts have been a bit guilty of trying to be a bit too precise going through the thirds. But I think Knight's pace definitely helped when he came on. I think he started blowing a bit towards the end, which is perhaps
me and you both clocked that, didn't we?
A bit predictable because obviously he's not played a lot of football, and it's always difficult to try and get that match sharpness back when you haven't actually got any matches, have you? You can't play reserve games or friendlies. So, but I've been really impressed with him. I mean, I obviously watched him. I caught the final 20 minutes on Saturday against Wrexham, and then watched it when I came back home for from Forest on Saturday. And I like him. I just think he's just got that little bit of bedevilment, a little bit of speed, and I think it will make a huge difference going forward. But and it's the same with Jimmy Knowles. Once they started running towards the goal, as Jimmy, I think, said in his post-match interview, he said, defenders got tired, stick it in behind them. And that was how they certainly got the fourth goal, sorry. And obviously he pounced on a mistake for his first one, and the second one it was a really lovely finish from just outside the box. So I think he has got the ability, certainly Jimmy, but now it's all about trying to find that consistency. And I think that's the big challenge going forward now. But that should have done him the power of good in terms of his confidence, because I think that was his first league goal, or I'd heard somebody say it was first goals in 5 months. So, but the way he took them, absolutely magnificent, brilliant finishes.
Is that potentially, Leigh, a breakthrough moment for him? Do we now see, a much more clinical Jimmy Knowles as a result of getting that hat-trick?
You'd hope so. I mean, but there's going to be tougher tests to come. I mean, if you look at Woking, I'm not sure many people are aware, but I think some of the squad have already been furloughed, haven't they? So, I think against the likes of a Hartlepool or a Stockport, where you've got a bit more experience, a bit more quality at centre half, those are the games that you need to sort of. Those are the ones that are important. Those are the ones where you get the better defenders that test you. But certainly, I think. With Knight in there, and now with obviously Kyle coming back from suspension, you'd hope it'd do him the power of good. He's got a hat trick. You want the next game to come around quickly. I think it'll be a tough game on Saturday. The Hartlepool play 3 at the back, don't they? Last time they came down here, they played 3 at the back. Got some very quick defenders. So again, it's going to be another test. But if he can keep doing, or they can keep doing what they were doing in the second half, just by going in behind a bit more, they've shown Notts will cause problems. And I have to say, I know Jordan Barnett conceded the penalty on Monday, but I thought going forward, I mean, what a wonderful left foot he's got, by the way. Lovely striker of the ball. A bit erratic in defence sometimes, but certainly going forward, he's got a peach of a left foot. Yeah.
A few observations and thoughts from our listeners and viewers. Ian Bagger, is Knowles under contract with Mansfield next season? Yes, I believe he still has a year to run. Gary says long term would we have been better giving our own Tyrese Palmer a chance instead. Tyrese came on, didn't quite go too well for him. Would you say that Jimmy is quite a way ahead of Tyrese at this moment in time?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd say at the moment, and even when Enzio was here, I would have put Jimmy, and I'm pretty sure this wouldn't have been the plan when the club was setting out their process of doing the forwards. I'd imagine he would have been the one who was the 4th choice striker, the one to come off the bench. But actually now, you look at him, you think he's actually, because while Lewis is getting back fit, you'd actually say he's 2nd choice now, isn't he? You'd say he would be the ideal. Now F. Young's gone back. Certainly got a bit more. What I would say is just seems to have that knack that centre forwards sometimes have. Sometimes blessed with, just seems to have that knack of being in the right place. Good movement. He has got very good movement, and he's a lethal finisher if you can provide him with the chances. So I would certainly say that, yeah, he's now the 2nd choice striker at the club. But now the challenge is, as I've always said about this team this year, it's okay doing it one game. You've got to keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. we've got 14 games left of the season now. So that's the challenge: is can you do it week by week basis? If he can reproduce that form that he showed on Monday for the rest of the season, Notts going to have a fantastic chance of going up, because it will help take the burden off Kyle.
Magpie Web asks a question, I guess that's quite an obvious one, really. Would you bring Kyle back in, or start with Knowles and Knight against Hartlepool?
I don't think Lewis is ready to start 90 minutes, not just on that second half. You can't leave your top scorer out. I mean, Kyle Wootton is one of the best strikers in the league, so I can't imagine leaving him out. I mean, I love Kyle. I think he's brilliant. I think he's got everything. I sometimes think his hold up play can be a little bit better, and I sometimes don't think he bullies centre halves enough, because he's a big old unit. But I think he's a wonderful striker, Kyle. And I think it would be a bit weird to leave your top scorer out, especially when he's second leading top scorer, second top scorer in the league. Wonderful talent, who I think will probably go on and earn Notts a lot of money in the future. Given that, if you look at his goals record since he's come in, phenomenal, really phenomenal. Even this year, when the chances haven't been quite there, his goals record is absolutely stupendous, and I think he's a fantastic talent. And I'm pleased. I know it was a shocking decision by the referee to send him off against Wrexham. I didn't think it was a yellow card at all. He's probably the most penalised striker in the league, and I'd love for any referee who referees in the National League to explain to me what he does wrong half the time, because I don't get it. I do not get it. I've said this numerous times before. I don't think the referees understand his game, and that was the case on Saturday. He went up for a header. His eyes were on the ball. It's a flat. You use your arms for leverage. Guy got caught. That's what happens sometimes in football. It wasn't deliberate. It was never a yellow card, but he got a rest, and I think that was key, because I thought he looked a bit tired against Yeovil, and he should be fit and raring to go for Saturday, which is a great boost for Notts.
Here's a player and a position in which he plays that sparks debate among Notts fans. Enzio. So Kelvin Hallam opens up in the debate tonight. Why do they insist on playing Enzio right wing back? He is so much more effective on top of the pitch. Comes back John Collins. Enzio was involved in 3 of those goals. And Steve Ramage said Enzio put himself about and stopped a certain goal. Playing him at the back confuses teams at the moment. Be nice to see him mix it up. What about thoughts, Enzio, in this right wing back role?
I love Enzio. I think he's a brilliant footballer. Great lad. I'm going to be controversial. I don't really want to see him at right wing back, because I've seen him now this is his 3rd season at the club. I just think but it just sums him up as a professional. He goes to right wing back. It's not a familiar position to him. Goes and puts a right bundle in. Had a great hand in the goal. Mark Ellis's first goal. He was the one who put the ball back into the area. Great lad. But I want to see him further up the pitch. He's the player who puts, gets you on the edge of your seat. When he's in full flight, he's absolutely amazing to watch. And maybe because Notts haven't quite got the balance of the wingers, because obviously Callum. If Callum was fully fit, I'd imagine Notts would go to a 4. A back 4, and would have Enzio on the left and maybe Callum on the right, and play inverted wingers, which is what they did last season, and were pretty much unstoppable, certainly in that run after Christmas. So I would really like to see him further up the pitch, but I think at the moment it just seems to be a case of, Neil obviously put him in as a right wing back, and obviously Ian's continued that trend. So and the back 3 does seem to work, but I just, Enzio gives you that little bit of magic up front. He's scored some just incredible goals, hasn't he? If you think back to the goals against Barnet, Woking, Chesterfield last season, even this season, the goal against Yeovil, just a wonderful footballer. And crucially, he's got a lot of pace as well.
With the talents that he's got, he came from Crawley, 6-figure signing by Notts in the Football League.
225 grand, wasn't it?
A lot of money. he clearly has a full set in his toolbox, potential wise. But we spoke about potential kind of all the way through his Notts career. Has anyone got as much out of him as you think there is in there?
I always think back to wingers, and they do. You get wingers are a funny breed, aren't they? They go through spells where, I mean, if you're comparing him with Callum, see Callum in that 15 minutes or however long he was on the pitch on Saturday, Callum invariably makes the right decisions. You don't see him often give the ball away. He's just got amazing ball carrying ability, and he's consistent. When he plays for Notts, he's consistent. Invariably, you might have one bad game, but actually the majority of the time, he's a 7 out of 10. Enzio's not quite like that. He'll go through a spell where he'll have 2 or 3 games he's quiet, then he'll go on a 4 or 5 game burst, and then go back to having another 2 or 3 quiet games again. I thought he was outstanding last year, and he fully deserved his place in the team of the year. I mean, he was a delight to watch, and his role did change somewhat. I mean, Neil and what Neil did with him was he wanted him to play a bit more central, coming off the touchline. And if you think back to the majority of his goals last year, Woking, Barnet, Chesterfield, they all came from him getting in the middle of the pitch. And again, the goal against Solihull, he got given the ball, didn't he, in the 2-0 win. It was Solihull came to defend, and he just had that beautiful little turn in the centre of midfield, and of course away he goes, and then he sets Kyle up for the goal. So has he got more to give? Yeah, I would say so. But it's been difficult for him this year because he's been playing right wing back, played a bit more. He's played in the middle three, and he's played left-hand side. I actually think the left-hand side is his best position, because he's got an absolute wonder of a right foot, and he's so skilled at the way he comes in and drifts in off the touchline and goes past players. I actually think that's his best position. But of course, when you're playing wing backs, it's a bit difficult. You want them. They obviously supply the width, they supply the crosses, don't they? So you don't want people coming in on the inside all the time. So yeah, it's a difficult one. I imagine when Callum's back fit, touch wood, he'll be back at the weekend, and hopefully more available for the back end of the season. We could see those two back in the same team together, because when they are at it, they're probably the best 2 wingers in the league by a country mile.
There's a debate going on at the moment with sort of 2 centre halves versus 3 at the back. Kelvin Hannum says, loving Barnet wing back, and Chickson has done very well to say he has barely had any game time previously. Chris Bramley, with the lack of pace in the centre halves positions, do you not think 2 would leave us open? Lacey is vital to 2 for me. And Gary saying, you say a back 3 works. How many GPM goals per match, I presume, have we conceded playing with that formation versus a back 4? Managers often have preferred back lines, don't they? 3 big centre halves or a flat back 4. Do you think Ian is going to potentially always favour a 3/5 at the back?
I don't know. It's a really difficult question, because for me, I think as good as Mark Ellis has been, and he was brought in because obviously Notts needed a bit of cover at centre half, and he's been brilliant. He's certainly from set pieces. He's certainly given Notts an added threat in that respect. But you think back to the centre half pairing last season, it was Rawlinson and Lacey, wasn't it? And it was the best defensive record in the league last year. And before Mark came, it was largely Connell and Alex. And again, best defensive record in the league. So I think maybe it's just a short-term thing until Alex gets fit, but then you've got a major headache on your hands, because you've got Ellis, who's playing really well at the moment, has been fantastic since he's come in. You've got Connell, who always gives you 7 out of 10. And then you've got Lacey, who's, I would say, probably one of the best centre halves in terms of passing it. So it's a really difficult one. Really difficult one. That's why the managers are paid the big money.
It's interesting. You say last season Rawlinson and Lacey by far the best pairing. Yet the irony is, Conor Rawlinson didn't play a single minute of Notts' playoff campaign.
No,
I don't think we've had two. I don't think you can honestly say there is a centre-back pairing that Notts have had that's out and out been the rock on which the defence has been built. It has changed a lot. It has changed a lot.
Yeah, but if you think back to last season in that fantastic run, it was largely Connell and Alex. I think Ben did come in, and in fact, I remember was it Barrow away. Was it Damien McCrory played in? I can't remember whether he played left back or left centre half, but I remember he was part of the back five at one stage. And of course, he's still coming back, isn't he? I mean, there might be a chance that he might be fit this season. But I just think in terms of, if I look at overall performances before Mark came in, and then obviously with what those two did last year, particularly around Christmas time, if you remember when they went to Halifax and won 4-2, then that sparked that amazing run-off, didn't it? I still think they're probably the best centre-half pairing at the club. But Mark Ellis, at the moment, you can't make a case for him to be left out of the team, can you? So I think Notts are blessed with three fantastic centre-halves. And I wouldn't like to be the one who has to pick a team for Saturday, because you could make a case for each one of them being in the team. Mark Ellis has been wonderful from set pieces, and one of my biggest bugbears this season. I don't think Notts have been anywhere near as threatening from set pieces as they should be, and he's come in and scored 3 goals. So, what you take away with one, you gain in another. So it's sometimes you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So it's just, I don't know. Who would you pick?
I would go with Ellis, because
who would you drop? Or are you playing a back three?
Yeah, I mean, my own personal view. I think a back three with 2 wing backs.
So if you're let me ask you your favourite team then. So if everybody's fit and firing, what's your ideal team?
All 11? Bloody hell! That's
yeah. Everybody's fit. Last game of the season.
Okay.
Who are you picking? Who's your team?
Okay, so because Kevin J.S. Dusker Jr. sponsors Turney, the goalkeeper, and clearly he ain't going to get a match-worn shirt, is he? So I'll put Turney in goal. Yeah, just so Mr. Dusker can have a match-worn shirt. I'm joking, by the way. Yeah, Slocum picks himself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think the dilemma when you go with the 5. I mean, I feel very sorry for Dion Kelly-Evans at the minute. Of all the players,
he's been brilliant this year. Fantastic player. He's arguably
good as anybody, right?
Yeah.
And clearly, with the new setup as it stands, right, he's kind of sacrificed, isn't he? He is sacrificed for the 3 at the back with playing Chickson naturally left-sided. I do like a team that's got balance. Yeah, I don't like inverted wingers. So I like the fact you've got one left-sided centre half, a couple of right. So you've got a balance. You've got a you've got a left-sided player in Barnett. How often this season have we checked back inside? Inverted wingers, right-sided players playing on the left side. You just check back inside. So I think Barnett is perfectly suited to left wing back. I would play Kelly-Evans at right wing back. I would, because I think he's actually a better right wing back than Enzio.
Okay.
I would go with the 3 centre halves. You've got it.
It's a controversial team choice, mate. I've got to say already.
Yeah, but I also think that if a team wins, you don't change the team.
No, that's a fair point.
All these rotations that we talk about. Eli Sam gets a scorpion kick and gets dropped, doesn't play for 2 games. I don't care who you are, right? Mentally, in your head, you're thinking, what have I done wrong not to be playing? managers, we rotation to me is a modern phenomena. I'm not sure. If you win a game of football, those 11 players have done their job. They've done the job. Carry on until such point as you don't win. Then you can do something about it, and because that's the objective of any game of football: win. It's a very, very simplistic game. He says, buying himself time as I
to think of this lineup. Yeah, it's going to be. We'll be sat here till 10 o'clock at this rate.
I know. Well, I've got to think this through. I like Barnett at left back.
Yeah.
So I will go Barnett left wing back, Dion Kelly. If we're doing a 5, Dion Kelly, Evans right wing back. The existing 3 centre halves. Okay, so what would you do?
Ellis, Lacey. I see. What you do? Ellis, Lacey, and Connell. If everybody's fit.
Yeah.
Ellis, Lacey, and Connell. Right. Okay. See, I'd go for a back 4. I'm a back 4 man, really, but I'd probably go. Oh, it's a tough one, isn't it? See, I really like Richard Brindley. I think Richard last year was
fantastic. Ian Wheat has just sent a message in saying I'd pick Brindley with a blindfold on over DKE. So you've just seen that and lifted that. Right?
No, Richard last year was absolutely terrific. I mean, he scored that absolute howitzer against Torquay, didn't he? Really good football player.
Ian, the manager's in. Ian Burchnall. He's on. The manager's coming again.
He spelled his own name wrong if it is him, yeah.
McCrory.
Maybe it's a disguise.
So, hey, Jordan's stuffed when McCrory's fit, then. Controversially, I'd go with Barnett because I think he gives you more legs, more mobility, athleticism, bombs up and down that.
So you're playing a 5. I'm playing a 4. So I'd go Barnett's probably the only left back on the books, isn't he? So authentic left back.
Well, you could go Jim, couldn't you?
Yeah, I prefer Barnett because I think Barnett's got an absolute wonder of a left foot, and I think certainly from set piece, anything out wide, he'll give you that extra bit of quality that you need sometimes. Centre halves, I'm really torn on because I really like Connell and Alex, but then Ellis gives you something a bit different at set pieces. Right back, that's probably one of the toughest positions in the team to pick. This is what we're talking about in terms of the defence at Notts. It's so good. I mean, they've got so many good players. Really difficult to choose, but if I'm going to be honest, I'm probably going to go with Brins, I think. Yeah, probably. If everyone's fit and everyone's firing, I'll probably go. It's a tough one. Barnett, Lacey.
I like Dion.
Connell.
Because he will start a fight, won't he? On his own, right? On his own. He'll get stuck in. Do you see we picked the fight?
I did see that. There was a great picture, wasn't there?
Kelly Evans looking at his stomach, picking a fight with him. I love that. That's good.
Yeah, I do love that. Fair play to Dion. He gives up considerable feet and inches to a lot of players in this league, but he absolutely loves it. He loves a row, and I love that. I don't think you get enough of that in the modern game. And
a great message from Ian Burchnall, not the manager. I've been supporting Notts for 45 plus years, and suddenly my name is recognised. 45 years of anonymity supporting Notts County, and now you're probably the most famous fan on here. And anytime you post anything on social media,
yeah. So anyway, my team, I'm going to go 4-2-3-1. I think that's the best I've seen Notts play.
Yeah.
So I'll go Reeves, Doyle, Holding, Roberts, right wing, Enzio left, Wootton up top on his own. And do you know what? I would have put Ruben in there as a 10, but I actually think Jimmy could play that role, I actually think Jimmy could do that role. It was almost like a shadow second striker. But so that'd be my team. My ideal team. I do love a 4-2-3-1. That has to be said. So your team, so you're going Dion, Ellis, Rawlinson, Lacey, Barnett. Who's your midfield three?
Have you got Doyle in yours, or are we saying because he's
I've got Doyle in mine. So I've got Doyle and Reeves holding.
It's how you squeeze them in, isn't it? I mean, are we counting Roberts or not?
Yeah, everyone's fit.
Everyone's fit.
Everyone's fit. So now you've left yourself a problem, haven't you? Because how do you get Callum in the team?
Well, clearly you're always going to play Wootton. You're always going to play Roberts. Okay.
Yeah.
On current form, you can't not play a player that's just scored an hat-trick. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I'd say
they have to start.
Yeah.
You know?
So
they've earned the right.
Yeah.
So what have I got left?
So you're going Knowles and Wootton up top.
Eh?
Knowles and Wootton up top. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you've got three midfielders.
You would obviously automatically play Doyle.
Yeah.
You've got to play Roberts.
Yeah.
You given what I've got in that team, you play Reeves. And clearly there is no place. I know what you're going to say to me. There's no place for Enzio.
That's what I was exactly going to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
How can you leave out? Enzio scored 5 goals this season.
How many?
5.
Right. That's brilliant for a 6-figure signing, is it? In the Football League, now playing in the National League.
But where's your goals going to come from?
Cal Roberts.
We should put this out for people watching, shouldn't we? Who do you think's team would win? Would my team win? Would my team beat Paul's? There you go. Let's ask that question. Then we'll see the comments coming in, and then we'll see.
Luke Brown says, "Stick Casper Sloth in there."
No, but no, yeah. I mean, going back to the game on Monday, I thought it was a good performance. I like the character as well they showed, because it would have been hard to go in after taking the lead and going down 2-1 in at the interval, and then heads might have been dropped. But I think they've shown enough. I've shown a lot of character this year, Notts. You know, if I think back to the Boreham Wood game where they were 2-0 down and came back to draw 2-2, and obviously Yeovil. So they've certainly look. Leigh 1, Paul 0. Here we go.
I'm a results-driven person. So what do people know on social media? Hey, what do they know? What do they know? I'm just looking at various things here. Yeah, I'm not doing too well. Leigh wins the team selection and hairline competition, says Luke. What else have we got on here? I'm just looking down.
I'd put Jimmy as the 10, but you can even turn that into a 4-4-2 as well. But there you go. If you really want to.
I mean, Hartlepool, we're looking ahead to Hartlepool now. Hartlepool is going to be a very different test to Woking, isn't it? You know, Woking with players furloughed, all you can do is beat teams in front of you. So it's a brilliant result for Notts. But clearly Hartlepool, like Notts, hold realistic ambitions of getting back into the league. They beat us at our place. They're clearly going to be a strong physical side with pace. So I think this is a very interesting examination. Now, what I would say is Notts, although they started very poorly against Wrexham, got away with it, okay, and beat a team. I know we timed it right because they just lost their striker, but nevertheless, Wrexham were very much an informed team coming to Meadow Lane, and Notts won. So that's a massive result. That's a massive result for us. So, I mean, don't forget, I'm not sure how long you've been covering Notts now. Hartlepool is historically, and I'm sure Ian don't want to hear this, it's historically a ground where we've sacked managers, haven't we? Keith Hill got the bullet there. And Martin Allen famously got the bullet when Jim Rodwell left a message on his answer machine. Oh, you couldn't make it up, could you?
I mean, every time I've been there, I've never seen Notts win. So, in fact, I can't even recall if I've ever seen a team that I've covered win at Hartlepool. It's just one of them. It's one of them grounds. Just difficult place, isn't it, to go, particularly when the crowds are in, because it's quite a hostile crowd there, isn't it? But they're a good team. I mean, they are a good team. You got to take your hat off to them. Came down here and played really well. Lovely passing team. Dave Challoner's doing a really good job there. But even saying that, when they came here, I remember that chance. I'm pretty sure it was Eli Sam on the goal line. Missed the chance from about 2 yards. I still felt Notts should have got something out of the game that day. But, you know, they've got a really quick centre-half. He's not the biggest in terms of his height, but I can't remember the lad's name now. But, you know, they were well organised. The front lad, is it Oates, who's a real handful. Been a really good signing for them. But I think Notts have got, about 5 games in hand on them, haven't they? So, yeah, listen, it's good. I think it'll be a really tough game, but one that everybody, or you would imagine in that dressing room, should be right up for after the last two results. I think it's vital they get a grip on Oates early on, because he's such a powerful runner and caused no end of problems. In fact, he was the one who set up the goal, wasn't it? So I think, but I still maintain, you know, Notts have got a lot of players who can, on their day, you know, when we talk about consistency, you know, cause any team in this problem a massive problem. So, you know, if Jimmy's goes there and he's buzzing off the back of a hat trick, Kyle's back in the team after a bit of a rest. You know, you've got players there who can hurt them.
I've long held a view since Sutton started pulling away. I'm not convinced they're going to see the course. No, I'm not convinced. I think it's one thing to be a challenger under the radar. The moment your head goes above the parapet, it becomes a different set of circumstances and a different set of mental challenges that players have to cope with. I actually think if you look at the table right now, you could make a case for every team down to Chesterfield that could potentially still win this league, I have a sneaking feeling that Torquay, with their players back, will now go on a bit of a run. Wouldn't be at all surprised if Sutton start to falter, feel a bit of the heat. Stockport, they have Paddy Madden. He's not really fired yet. Clearly he could do. I actually think the club least likely to do anything are going to be Hartlepool, because they haven't got that many games left. They've got about 8 or 9 left, haven't they? So for me, they're going to have to win 6 or 7 of them to stand a chance. And I think Chesterfield, whose current form is very good and have knocked a lot of teams over, they've not drawn many, they've won a lot of games, you know, to come back from where they were in the table. I think you can make a case for a lot of teams. And, you know, I think if Notts can put 4, 5, 6 wins on the spin, then I do really think they can and would go up. For me, the challenge is, can Notts go on a run of winning 5, 6 straight? Because that's what they'd have to do to go up. That's what they'd have to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at the table there. Actually, Hartlepool got 10 games left. Drawn 2 out of the last 5. Sutton, you're right. I think it's very easy to get up there. It's easy to get up there, but it's even harder to stay there because everybody wants to beat the league leaders, don't they? You've got a target on your back every time you turn up somewhere. And I wonder whether Sutton have got the experience and the know-how of how to win a league. And it's always very difficult. But they've been fantastic. You know, I remember watching them against Notts earlier on in the season. I think I tweeted, I said I thought that they'd be up there. So well organised, got all the right parts in all the right places. You know, 4-4-2, 2 quick wingers, couple of decent centre forwards. Rob Milson has been brilliant for them in midfield this year. But of course it's whether you've got that mentality. Can you cope with the pressure? Can you cope with having that expectation to perform every week, knowing if you slip up, another team wins the point? And it's all about that. It's a lot of it's mental as more as what your ability is on the pitch. So can Notts get up there and force themselves into the conversation? Yeah, definitely. But it's all about, like you said, they've got to go on a run where you stick 5 or 6 wins together, and they've got some tough games coming up, haven't they? So Hartlepool obviously being one, which is historically, Notts were poor there last year, weren't they? So and it's never been really a good place to go as a Notts County player or fan, full stop. So I think they've got it in them, yeah. But again, it's all about that consistency. As we've seen, we've said this time and time again throughout the course of the season, when the door opens a little bit, Notts haven't quite been able to grasp that opportunity of producing that string of results as they did last year, which makes them part of the conversation, which makes you feel like this is a team that's going to go and win the title, which is what we all thought was going to happen last year until the pandemic hit. So that's the big challenge. They've certainly got the players to do it, but it's about producing on the day and then producing consistently.
Stimulated lots of comment. George Harvey, 7 of the next 9 away from home, but usually quite solid on the road, which may bode as well. I'm not so worried, given there's no fans at Meadow Lane and all the rest of it. I'm not so worried as I ordinarily might be with that run of away games. And I think the way we're set up, particularly with the 5 or the 3, Leigh, then that suits us away from home. Ian Wheat, going for brownie points with both of us, said he can see the merits of both formations. Yours at home, mine away. Well, I say mine, it's the manager. It is a great moniker for yourself. Thick Woofers 24. Hartlepool, he's saying they only have 8 games left because of Dover. And he says they don't play. I've not noticed this. Hartlepool don't play on the last day of the season, as we're due to play Dover. David Henton, of the top 7, 6 are all ex-Football League sides. Ian Wheat, if we win our games in hand and beat Sutton, we are 2 points behind, which is a very positive way of looking at what is at the moment clearly a very substantial gap.
I think the key thing is they've got to keep. It's all right saying you've got these games in hand, but it's such a crammed schedule. How are the players going to react? Are you going to get injuries? Are you going to get injuries to key players at any one time? I mean, this is why it's so frustrating, the fact that they've got this schedule like they have, because for it to be fair in any normal walk of any normal season, they wouldn't have this schedule. And
but Leigh, is that not negated by the fact it's the same for every club? It might not be fair under normal circumstances, but every club has to go through. Clearly, Hartlepool have played more matches than most of the others.
Yeah, but they've got the points in the bag, haven't they? Yeah.
But it is the same for every club. And if you think of one of Neil's mantras at the start of this season, it was 2 players for every position. So within the scheme of things, and this may be why you've got the league clubs now being where they are, they should be better positioned to cope with the rigours of these games, because by and large, not always, they will be carrying larger squads.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point, but again, it's all about recovery and refresh, isn't it? I mean, you look at Alex Lacey and his tight hamstrings. That was a result of playing Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday for about 5 weeks in a row. It was because Notts' FA Trophy, and then there was the COVID break, wasn't there, at the end of January. That's my only concern. I think certainly got the capability to do it, but it's all about touching wood and hoping that the players who play don't pick up any muscle injuries or suffer from fatigue. And I know what you're saying in terms of 2 players for every position. But if you take Enzio out the side, and if we're talking a bit of bedevilment up front, if Jimmy or Kyle were to get an injury, then it does make things that bit more difficult. So I'm always sort of a bit cautious, but and it's fine having the games in hand, but it's not as if they're evenly spread out over a distance, isn't it? It's Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, so it's till the end of May, isn't it? Pretty much. So that's my only concern. But I still think they're definitely capable of doing it. Yeah, absolutely.
Richard Hawksworth said, if we had Leigh Hughes in this side, we would catch Sutton. Ian Baggett, the schedule will favour us if we keep winning. Anthony Blackmore, we caught Rochdale in 2010. Richard Hawksworth, Doyle and Reeves in same side, please no. I tell you what, though, and we commented on this separately on one of our many conversations, Leigh, you can make the point about Reeves really should have scored twice at Woking. But as opposed to the 25-yarders that he scored, he was in the 6-yard box for those headers. So he's clearly getting more offensive into that into that final third, because I guess a lot of the fans' criticism was that the axis of Reeves and O'Brien was too defensively minded, and we didn't contribute enough goals from midfield.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, like I said earlier on at the start of the show, that snapshot of Jake Reeves threading that through ball to Lewis Knight, which he drove across. As a midfield player, you want players to make those runs. It makes such a difference, and we haven't had that a lot this season. We haven't had those forwards going the other way, making those spaces, so the midfield do get players to hit, spaces to hit. A chance to put a through ball into the final third. We haven't had enough of that this season, but I just felt in that moment there, and Reeves, I think he comes in for a tremendous amount of stick. He's not as bad a player as everybody makes out he is. He really isn't. He's a good player. He's good pedigree.
I don't think people criticise him as an individual. I think there is a view expressed by a wide section of Notts fans that we have 3 very similar players in O'Brien, Reeves and Doyle, who collectively have had a lot of game time this season. Yeah,
but people say, and we get back to this debate about the midfield and why are we playing Reeves and Doyle, this, that, and the other. The new manager's come in and played them. So what does that say? He sees them on
the lad from Crewe, hasn't he?
Yeah, he sees them on the training pitch every single day. And I remember speaking to Ian after the Aldershot game at home, and he said that he felt that Reeves played really well, and he's given the captain's armband in the absence of Michael Doyle, which tells you how highly he rates him. So I think it's always about that midfield. Is the biggest problem, as we spoke about in this before, is the lack of movement up front, that creating those spaces, which if you'd watched the second half, and as we all saw, when Knight and Knowles started going the other way and making those runs, the midfielders were happy to pick them out, and just created that bit more space. And that's something moving forwards they've just got to keep doing, because certainly if you bring Knight on with about 20 minutes to go against tiring legs, he'll cause no end of problems.
Yeah, I mean, Ian Baggett, and we've had a couple like this, said I would start with Knight and Knowles. Pace and energy will unsettle National League defences. I think we would all agree with the sentiment of that. I think the reality at the minute is that Knight is quite a long way off being able to last the 90. Yes, Leigh?
Yeah, I mean, we was started to tire towards the end on Monday, didn't he? But even then, I don't know how anybody can make a case for leaving out his second top scorer. It just seems a bit strange to me. Carl's a brilliant centre forward, plays well with his back to goal, gets in the right positions, good finisher when you give him the opportunities. I think Wootton and Knowles, if you're going to play 2 up front on Saturday, would be the ideal partnership. I have to say I was a little bit disappointed with Eli Sam's performance on Monday. I thought it was a real big chance for him to come in and stake a claim for himself after Kyle's suspension, but the game passed him by, didn't it?
I'm not sure. I think Eli is a more effective player when he's running towards goal, which clearly when he's been put out wide left or wide right, he's running towards goal, and he's got a couple of little tricks, and he's got a little bit of something. I think when he's got his back to goal, I'm not sure that is really playing to his strengths.
Well, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Against Boreham Wood for the second goal, wasn't it? He dropped into midfield, got given the ball by Calvin Miller. I mean, really, the ball should have just gone straight over into corner. But even then, Eli Sam's touch was poor. Ball's given away. 2 passes later, it's in the back of the net. On Monday, he drops a ball back into midfield. I think actually Conor Rawlinson got booked. It was a poor pass that led, wasn't it, early on? And that's what I mean about Eli. I think he clearly has got a little bit of something. He scored that amazing scissor kick against Oxford City. But I think, when I watch him, he makes the easy look really difficult and makes the difficult. He makes the easy look really difficult and makes the difficult look really easy, which is, and that's the best way I'd sum him up, really. Sometimes I think he just needs to be, in possession, sometimes he's a bit loose, a bit erratic, and sometimes gives it away in bad areas. And I just, on Monday, prime example, all of a sudden turns possession over and Lowe's is going through, Rawlinson gets booked, and immediately you're on the back foot. And if you're going to be a centre forward who plays with your back to goal, you've got to be good with the ball. So that's something that he's definitely got to be, he's definitely got to improve on.
Question that was asked much earlier on the thread. I've forgotten the gentleman's name, so apologies. The gist of the question is, how much credit do you give to Ian Burchnall in terms of these last 2 games?
Well, he picks the team, doesn't he? It's just.
It's interesting. Yeah, I agree, because what I found very bizarre was when we lost those games, some people were saying it was Neil Ardley's fault. And I was going to make exactly the point you just started on there. Whoever is in charge of the team is responsible for the result. So it was ludicrous to say, it's not a case of blame, but, it's Neil Ardley's fault that we lost to Aldershot, because he signed the players, he'd done the tactics. The moment a manager or head coach takes over, they're responsible for the results, aren't they? The buck stocks with them the moment they're there and picking the team. So we've changed it around at the back. Difference in personnel. Brought a player in. I mean, what do you see that you like? What might concern you? Because as we've said before, Ian is going to be judged, no matter what anybody says, on getting us into the playoffs at the end of the season.
Yeah, it's funny though, isn't it? It's funny how the narrative goes throughout the course of the season. I mean, after the Hornchurch and Aldershot games, the players, I read on Twitter how the players were nowhere near good enough, terrible group, this, that, and the other. They go and win a couple, and now it's the managers getting the credit. It's strange how the narrative shapes throughout the course of the season when you get bad results, isn't it? They are a good group of players. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I've always said it. I think my biggest issue with them has been consistency. But, listen, the manager picks the team, does the work on the training ground. He's the one who ultimately takes full responsibility, win, lose or draw, isn't it? So, there you go.
I think Woking for me was an interesting scenario in the sense that, and an awful lot happened in those 90 minutes, and you can only beat the team in front of you, and from being in control at 1-0, you're 2-1 down, and we looked woeful for the rest of that first half, didn't we? Yet changes were made at a half time. And second half,
he made
an awful lot of people took an awful lot of fans took an awful lot of encouragement by seeing an athleticism and a pace and an approach that hasn't been too prevalent this season in the way that Notts have played.
Yeah, I think. Listen, he made the right changes at the right time. To be honest, I was surprised that Eli actually came out in the second half. He would have probably been the first person I would have hooked. But I think it was about the 54th minute when he decided to change it. I mean, listen, Ian's not daft. He's a good coach. Been top flight of Swedish football. He will still be learning about these players, but I'm pretty sure he will learn pretty quickly who he can rely on. And I think, all you can ask for is when things aren't going well, is that the manager changes it, and that's what he did. And in fairness, he's got. I keep calling Leon Knight. I'm fascinated with Leon Knight. Lewis Knight. He's got Lewis Knight available, hasn't he? Somebody who's come on. He came on against Wrexham, made a bit of a difference. And as we've always said, it's about the players. It's about the quality of the players. Recruitment 9/10. And to have that, which we've said has been lacking all season, that little bit of extra bedevilment, that little bit of extra pace that we haven't had, has made a difference later on. I just think now, that the big issue for me is can we keep Callum fit? That I think will decide a lot of things in terms of where Notts finish at the end of the season, because I think he's a fantastic player.
Do you have any indication as to whether he will be considered? The club line was that it was a mild reaction, didn't travel, and the inference to a mild reaction is they would hope to have him involved this weekend. I mean, do you have any inside track on that story at the moment or not? Because Notts haven't had the press conference yet, have they, till tomorrow?
No, just a mild reaction. I mean, I guess we'll wait and see at the weekend. I mean, it's really difficult. And again, I put a lot of this down. It's a result of the pandemic, really. I mean, you'd want to give Callum Roberts, you'd probably organise a friendly, wouldn't you? During the week, behind closed doors.
It's not going to happen, is it? It's not going to happen.
You'd give him 45 minutes, give him 60 minutes. So at the minute, the only match fitness, or the way he's going to get match fitness, is, and you don't really get it through training, and not that there'll be enough training sessions anyway, because they're playing Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. So their only real full day. I mean, this week's been a good week for them because they haven't had a midweek, a Tuesday night game. So the only way you're going to get it really from now until the end of the season is on that Thursday.
The concern would be, though, Leigh, that he came on at Stockport only for a very short period of time, and I'm not even sure if he touched the ball. Suffered a reaction. He came on against Wrexham, and it was nowhere near a half. So to get reactions from such a short period of time on the pitch, on the face of it, is a cause for concern.
I think, naturally, especially because he's still young as well, isn't he? He's still, I think, 23. And of course, it will be a cause of concern, but I don't think it's been helped by the fact that it's not been that season where we've had a lot of spare midweeks and the ability to fix up games and be able to play him and get him and work on his match fitness, 60 minutes here, 70 minutes there. The only time he's actually playing game time in a full competitive environment is what he did on Saturday against Wrexham. They're the only way he's going to get his minutes. So how, if I'm Ian Burchnall, I'm thinking, well, how do you get him back up to match fitness? There's no other way by dropping him in here, there and there. And you've just got to hope, I suspect, that he doesn't have a really bad reaction to it. But I don't think there's anything Notts can do to navigate that problem, to get past that problem, because there's just, you can't play friendlies. You can't play against the academy team because they're in two different groups, as we've seen before. They're in two different pods, aren't they? So it's a really difficult one. But I think Callum showed in that 12 minutes or whatever he was on the pitch, showed exactly why he is such a huge player for this football club. You watched him, he instantly, and you could see the confidence from the team. Just give him the ball. Just give him the ball. He will make something happen. In the time he was on the pitch, he put a shot wide. He's just went on a little mazy run. I love that kid to bits. I think he's such a brilliant player. Absolutely fantastic player.
And here's a cross-section of observations from fans that kind of sums up where we are and how I think between now and the end of the season, supporter reaction is going to be a big roller coaster from one game to the next, unless we win 6 on the spin or lose 6 on the spin. So Dave Woolley said, if the new coach doesn't get us to the playoffs with the squad at his disposal, he needs to be gone. John Collins, the counter argument, the squad we have is basically signed by Ardley. Only Enzio was signed before him. IB has to work with the players he has inherited. So they're two poles apart there. The gaffer, we'll call him the gaffer now, Ian Burchnall. The one aspect we have lacked all season has been goals, as Leigh has pointed out many times. If Ian can get us scoring, then he deserves credit for that. Ian Baggott says, Burchnall is calm on the touchline. Players perhaps respond better to this. Richard Hawksworth, Wootton needs to come back fresh. Knowles and Knight needs to continue. And Roberts needs to play a part for us to go up. Kelvin Hallam, at the end of the day, Neil in charge or not, the position he left in would have got playoffs. Anyways, every team has a blip during the season. No one is unbeatable. Right. I think we've kind of done that cross-section. We did say we would discuss National League latest as well, and we'll wrap up with that. So Brian Barwick, the National League chairman, has belatedly confirmed he will be resigning his position at the end of the season. There is currently a vote of no confidence that has been put forward by various member clubs. And there's also, I've seen the very early stages of debate and concern about the fact that no grant money next season for any clubs, and clubs have to stand on their own 2 feet, which clearly we hope by then fans are back in. Are you surprised by Brian confirming his position to resign?
No. No. I mean, the National League this year has been a total fiasco. And do you know what? Finally, tipped me over the edge, so to speak, was that ridiculous thing that they did of fining the National League North and South clubs for not playing fixtures when the division was made null and void. I mean, these clubs, it wasn't their fault that they couldn't play because of the National League's handling of the grant fiasco. If that had been all sorted, they'd still be playing. So they couldn't play. They were backed into a corner. And why should they put their hands in their own pocket to, part-time clubs paying for coaches, paying for hotels or whatever, paying players when the National League stuffed that up? So, but to then go and slap them with fines, I mean, it just beggars belief. At a time when clubs are, doing everything they can to survive in such a difficult climate financially, no spectators still inside stadiums, owners being left to put their hands in their own pockets, and keep the clubs going through pure love more than anything. And, for the National League to do that was an absolute disgrace. And to be honest, I actually thought the 40 grand fine that Dover got was ridiculous as well. Thought the points would have been enough, but to hit him with 40 grand, I mean, sledgehammer to crack a nut. So I'm not surprised that Barwick's gone. Obviously, there's a vote of no confidence going about the board, isn't there, as well? So I'd expect there'll be a few crosswords about that as well. So, but it needs change. I've said this even last year. I think the board, the way the National League communicates is really poor, and it just needs to be. It's just not fit for purpose, unfortunately.
You would hope, and I think that the King's Lynn chairman, Stephen Cleave, who had been a guest on our show, he alluded to this, didn't he? But he said that there was basically a cabal or cartel of the bigger clubs, and they've been threatening legal action in the background. You get the impression that that coercion has kind of led to the National League getting tough with Dover, which I think has won. I think that the points deduction everyone accepts, the fine, that the money is a debatable one. But I think what is going to be interesting is the composition of the board. You know, I would have thought most of those people on that board, their position is largely untenable. And I would have thought they should all resign en masse, even the ones that are there at the minute, and offer themselves up for re-election. Because I don't really think you can have anybody tarred with this brush of this season that should be on that board starting next season. Yeah. Unless they're voted back in by the clubs.
No, I'd agree. It needs totally.
It's a clearing of the decks.
But it needs it, mate. It does need it. It's such a poorly run organisation that it needs complete reform. Unfortunately, they've just made some really baffling decisions. You know, even the fiasco with the playoffs last year, just appallingly handled. And this year's been no different. And like I say, tip of the iceberg. And that's what's literally. If the National League had taken a more considered approach and thought, right, the North and South were made null and void, just send the warning out to the clubs who didn't play. That would have sufficed. But to hit them with fines, I mean, and it's no wonder if that finally tipped them over the edge. You know, anybody you'd spoken to behind the scenes in terms of football clubs and at board level would all raise the same concerns about the National League.
Yeah, Richard Hawksworth makes the point. The biggest worry is if promotion this season is in jeopardy due to unviable National League next season. Because the Football League make the point, don't they, that for them to relegate the clubs, it is based on the assurance that the National League will carry on playing. And if we don't come out of lockdown in the way that we might hope, you really need the National League to unequivocally say the main division will play, because they are fundamentally full-time professional football clubs. But you do worry if the National League start talking about, oh well, we'll suspend the start of the season. That then would potentially open the door for the Football League to say, the two clubs at the minute, we won't relegate Grimsby and Southend because you can't assure us that you'll be playing football as normal next season. I think that's the point I think that Richard is getting at. ZO did not back the vote of no confidence in the National League board. Don't honestly know. I don't think Notts have made their position public on that stance. I would imagine that Notts, Stockport, Hartlepool, Torquay, that those kind of groups of clubs would all agree to vote in a certain way. They'd all vote for, they'd all vote against, and use it as kind of a block vote of the larger full-time professional clubs in the National League. I suspect. Anyway, we've gone on for 75 minutes. Thank you very much indeed for your time, Leigh. The good news is you are now back full-time, home and away with Notts County, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it. Provided people let me in the grounds. Obviously, I wasn't there at Woking on Monday. Wouldn't let me in. So
you could have had Martin Tyler's seat in the assistant manager's seat in the dugout.
You to have a word with him, shouldn't I? Should have got you to have aware of him. I'm sick to death of covering games off streams. Oh, honestly, it's an absolute nightmare. Especially when I logged in first of all. I thought I'd had 10 pints because it just came up all fuzzy on the screen. It was like a bit out of focus. But eventually it sorted itself out. But yeah, back on Notts now. Finished with Forest. So yeah, looking forward to the big running.
Just in time for potentially a lot of travelling, eh? There's a lot of long games coming up, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going to Hartlepool. Just hope Notts can produce a result because like I say, I can't remember the last time. In fact, I think the last time Notts won there, which I think someone said in the comments, was when Stead scored. I don't think I did that game.
Yeah.
Don't think I did that game, no, because I've certainly never seen a team win there. I think Menezes' team won there, didn't they? Was it Noble? No, I remember. Did Noble score?
My view of Hartlepool is it is probably the coldest football ground I've ever been.
Oh yeah, that and Oldham.
It could be 98 degrees.
Oldham in the summer is like -5.
Off the top of that harbour on that road, it whips in, don't it? It whips in off the North Sea.
Yeah. But no, I'm looking forward to it, mate. It should be, it's exciting times, isn't it? You want to be involved at the business end, just coming towards the back end of the season. It's all about the excitement. Just a shame the fans, the fans won't be allowed in to see it until the 22nd of May. By which point, hopefully, you'd hope that Notts are comfortably in first place and having been on an amazing run, and we're all having one big party. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I just have a feeling this could be a mass blanket finish. I do. I just think it. I think there could be 3-4 teams in it right at the end of the season. At the end of the season.
Yeah, I think I can see it going to the final day. I can see it going to the final day. A lot of things going to the final day, actually. Not just the title, but who finishes second, third, who obviously gets the home leg in the playoffs. It's going to be really exciting. But I think my biggest hope would be that, Notts, touch wood, bang at it. Players are kept fit, no injuries. We've got the strongest squad available, and we're there and part of the conversation come the end of the season.
Our listeners are an educated lot. Chris Bramley has waded in here. I think we've won there twice since 1955. Cool, blimey, that's not good.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me. It's a horrible place to go in terms to play football. It just, especially, remember last year, the crowd are on top of you, aren't they, as well? They make it really difficult.
Though, we were very,
I think we lost 2-0. Joe McDonnell was in goal, wasn't he?
Didn't he?
And we never really performed on the day. So I think it's always been one of those grounds where it's not held much comfort or success. So, but hopefully it's got to change at some point.
It will change. Gary Morphus, great podcast. Well done, guys. Leigh Brearley, perfect again. The Gaffer, a.k.a. Ian Burchnall. Get your bloody haircut, Leigh, and they may let you in. Alice Band, right.
Look at that, look. It's like a lion's mane.
Will he be running any more competitions? Yes, we will. News coming up very shortly. We're on about 800 subscribers on it. Want to hit 1,000, and you have a choice of 2 match-worn shirts. So we'll be doing that competition in the next couple of days. So keep an eye out for that. Nondescript crewmate. I remember we lost there once to Hartlepool. Scorers, Hartley and Poole. There you go. I think that's a joke. Ian Burchnall, the Gaffer. Great debate, lads. Here's the 3 points on Saturday. I'm sure you'll be having more to do with it than us. And I'm sure you'll be picking a back 5, not a 4-4-2. Right. That's enough. Thank you very much, Leigh. As always.
Before we go, I have to commend you.
Yeah.
Because we've not had the Magpie sponsored circle, Mark Ellis, or the Magpie Circle sponsored Lewis Knight. We've not had that tonight. You've let yourself down because usually, you've dropped in the last few weeks.
Yeah, well,
so you've let yourself down.
We're hoping to have Mark Ellis on soon, so we'll get you on for that one. It can be an appreciation society, and we'll point out the fact you don't think he should be in the team in your flat back 4.
Hey, that's a tough choice, but
It's got a bit quiet now, hasn't it? Eh?
it's a tough choice. Hey, actually, you can make a case for any of them. It's what you pay the manager the big bucks for. That's why I'm sat in this chair, and you're sat where you are. We just, it's just an opinion, isn't it?
It is. We've all got opinions. Thank you very much indeed. Off to watch some Champions League football now. We won't bring up your beloved Liverpool last night.
Please don't. This is absolute farce, isn't it?
Yeah, not the best. Not the best. But anyway, the big one is Saturday, Hartlepool on the telly. You'll be there live. We'll be watching on the stream. Thank you very much, Leigh, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Cheers.